welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be giving you guys my full opinion and first impressions of the new Walk of Shame palette from Charlotte Tilbury. Now, I've had the Walk of Shame lipstick for quite some time now. I think I got it maybe 2 or 3 months ago. I actually used my Sephora points. It cost me 750 points to get it, and I snatched it really quick. It's the Matte Revolution formula. I'm wearing it right now. It's very, very beautiful, and it's been a shade that I've really enjoyed. So when I saw that she was releasing a palette to kind of go with the Walk of Shame lipstick, I was really excited about it. You can get the 3-piece system on the Charlotte Tilbury website, which comes with the lip liner, the lipstick, and the actual palette itself. But for me personally, I didn't really want to get the lip liner because I already had the lipstick. And normally with her Matte Revolution lipsticks, I don't have to wear a lip liner. So I just went ahead and bought the palette itself. So I'm going to go ahead and, you know, show you guys me kind of playing around with it, creating this look. And then later on, I'm going to compare it to the Natasha Denona Sunrise palette and the new Coral palette. So I have a lot to say about this palette in comparison to these two. So hang tight till the end of the video to hear my final thoughts on the palette compared to those two palettes. As you guys know, I am a huge Charlotte Tilbury fan. She is becoming one of my favorite brands, and I'm a die-hard Charlotte Tilbury fan. So when I saw this released, I had to have it. I also like to get these type of palettes just so that I can kind of play around with them and give you guys my personal opinion. You guys know that I keep it 100% real. Even though I'm a huge Charlotte Tilbury fan, you guys will truly find out at the end of the video whether I feel like this palette is worth the grab. So without further ado, let's jump right into the tutorial part of the video, and I will see you guys in my final thoughts. Okay, let's get started on this eyeshadow look, which I'm very excited about. This palette is really pretty. So first things first, I'm just going to take a brush like this. This is the Sonia G Crease Pro. I'm going to go into that top shade up here. Just going to start kind of building this in the crease. Very good pigmentation so far. For matte, I get a little bit of fallout, but when it comes to her like shimmer matte, it's like a matte with a little bit of shimmer in it. I don't exactly know what the proper terminology is, but with that formula, I don't get much fallout. So I'm kind of hoping that I don't get much fallout with this one as well. And kind of just buffing it out just to make sure that I don't have any harsh lines. I'm gonna go into a pencil brush like this and go back into that shade. And I'm gonna like pack that on this outer corner. I'm gonna do the same thing on the lower lash line. I'm gonna go into this shade right here, the bottom one, pack that here on this outer corner, keeping it right here. Like, I don't want to go too far in with that darker shade. I just want to keep it right in here. We're gonna leave that there for just a minute, and I want to go into this shade right here. I am gonna use my finger first, kind of get it down, and then I'll probably use a felt tip applicator, just because the felt tip applicator, like, this shade is really sheer, like more so than some of her other shades. It's very, very sheer. So I wish I had a little bit more pigment in it, but we'll make it work. Because I have nails on, and it's kind of hard for me to get up in there with my fingernails, I like to take a felt tip applicator, especially for this kind of a product where, you know, it's kind of finely packed in there. And I kind of dampen it with a makeup wipe, but it's not like super wet. So I just kind of run it across like this. Start building up that shade to the point where I want it. I want to like tip the felt tip applicator like this and kind of bring it up into that part right here where it's right in the middle of my crease, and it will just really open up my eye because I have such deep set eyes. lately I've been bringing my shadows like that up into there, and it really, instead of just like keeping it on just that crease part, I bring it above the crease, and it seems like it just opens my eyes just a little bit more and kind of feels like it gives me a little bit more landscape to work on. And so I've been really liking that look. Okay, so that's what that shade looks like going in 3 times. Even though it's really sheer, it builds up nice. Next up, I'm gonna take a brush like this. I'm gonna go into that dark shade, and I am going to tightline with that just to make sure that that outer corner is kind of dark and have dimension. And I'm gonna do the same thing up here on the upper part. Now I'm gonna go into this shade right here and kind of blend it into the eyeshadow. Now I'm going to take a pencil brush and go into that light shade, which is a really pretty, like, it almost has like a vanilla-ish undertone to it, to the shimmer. It looks really pretty. I'm going to go in dry first, just to kind of give the eye just a little bit of brightness. That would be really pretty all over the lid as well. That's really pretty. I'm going to take a brush like this and go up here on the brow bone and highlight that, just to kind of give a little bit of, then I'm going to go one more time into this shade right here. I'm going to kind of bring it back to life, because sometimes you lose that transition shade just a little bit when you know, are kind of playing with eyeshadows. So I like to kind of bring it back to life one more time. I'm going to go ahead and use this full fat lashes. I got this in a sample, so I'm going to use this. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this eye, throw some mascara on, and I will be right back. Okay, so I'm back. Let's go ahead and put on some of the Walk of Shame lipstick. So let me swatch it for you so you can see what it looks like. So that's the shade, and it does match the palette perfectly. Okay, so I wanted to do a few palette swatches here from this palette because it does look very similar to the new Coral palette that I just got and the Natasha Denona Sunrise palette. So I'm gonna do a few swatches here for you guys so you guys can see the shades next to these. So these two right here are from the Natasha Denona Coral palette. So this palette right here, so this is the matte shade, and then this is the shimmer on the end. These two are from the Charlotte Tilbury palette. So in my opinion, these look very similar. The only difference is this one has a tiny bit more of like a purple undertone, but they're actually very similar in shade. This one is just a lighter version of this one. I'm gonna grab this shade Poppy from the Sunrise palette and put it next to the one from Charlotte Tilbury. So this one is Poppy from Natasha Denona, and this one is from Charlotte Tilbury. And I'm gonna be honest with you, the Natasha Denona, it's a much more impactful shadow, and those are pretty much exactly the same. So, you know, just know that if you have the Natasha Denona Sunrise palette, those two are almost exactly. I mean, I don't know how much more exact you could get when it comes to those shades. I'm gonna go into Azalea and compare it to this shade on the top. Okay, so this is Azalea from Natasha Denona. This is from the Walk of Shame. So those are very similar. I mean, they're almost exact. If you have the Natasha Denona Sunrise palette, you might want to consider passing on this one, just because there are so many similar shades in the Sunrise palette. I mean, they're almost exact. Now let's compare this shade right up here at the top to the shade Laurel in the Sunrise palette. Okay, so this is the one from Charlotte Tilbury. This one is the one from Natasha Denona. Let's do Agate. Agate is in the Sunrise palette, and it's right below. So also very, very similar. Okay, so this shade right here is from the Walk of Shame palette. It's this shade right here. And this one right below it is from the Dreamgasm palette. So those are identical. I think that might actually be the same shade. I'm going to swatch the one from the Pillow Talk palette right above it. This one is from the Walk of Shame. This is the Dreamgasm, and this is the Pillow Talk. So it's pretty much the same shade. Okay, so let me give you guys my final thoughts now that we've gotten through the palette comparisons and the swatches of the actual palette. In my personal opinion, I don't really think this one is like something that's necessary. Even though you guys know I do love Charlotte Tilbury's 4-pan quad palettes. I have several of them, 3 more in storage, but these are just the ones that I use quite often. So I do have several of her quad palettes. So it's not like I am not a fan of them, because I do really like them. The difference with this palette, I think that I don't feel like the shadows are unique. Maybe they are within the Charlotte Tilbury category, or a different look of a palette compared to her palette. But when you compare it to the new Natasha Denona Sunrise palette, or even this new Coral palette, they're almost the exact same shades, and I just don't feel like it's needed in your collection if you have either one of these palettes, especially if you have this one. If you have this palette, you pretty much have the Walk of Shame palette in your collection. The only shade that you would need is this one right here, which if you have the Pillow Talk or the Dreamgasm palette, you have that shade. So you can create the exact same type of looks with just using your Natasha Denona Dreamgasm palette and that shade from one of your quads. The problem that I have is the blending, and so I struggled with blending this out. I really did. Got done doing this eye and I had to take off this portion and start over again, like putting concealer back down and going back in, and I'm still not like 100% satisfied with the blending on this. If you don't get a perfect blend all up into here, you'll have like missing spots, and then if you go to try to add it, it adds more to the darker spots. It's just kind of one of those palettes. It's just one of those shades where I really struggle with blending it. I don't have a problem with this shade per se, but it's this shade, which is the prettiest shade in my opinion. That's my negative with this, is I struggled trying to get the perfect blend with this. And don't get me wrong, I am not a makeup artist, first of all. So I'm just a normal everyday makeup girl, okay? I'm just a makeup enthusiast that I love makeup. And I have a lot of eyeshadow palettes. And this one in particular, I struggled with some of these shades. I struggled with getting it to blend. I have the same problem with the Dolce Vita, but the Dolce Vita, I'm able to do it just a little bit easier than this one. This one, in my opinion, is the hardest of the quads that I have. It was just really hard to get that perfect blend. Now, I haven't watched any reviews on this, so I don't know if everybody is having that same problem. It could just be on an individual basis, because I'm not a makeup artist, and you know, we all have our own different techniques. And so for me personally, with the technique that I use, it's just a little bit harder to get it to blend in the crease area to where it doesn't have like missing gaps. Like I like a more like smooth, even blend. I don't have that problem with Natasha Denona, and I don't really have that problem with my other Charlotte Tilbury palettes. So it's kind of like, you know, I was kind of annoyed by that. And again, it's a first impression. Maybe the next time I use it, I'll have better luck. Again, if you have the Sunrise palette, or you were thinking about getting this one or the Walk of Shame, I would get this one all day, because you kind of have these two shades at the end that are similar to this palette. And then you have, the only shade that's a dud in this palette is this one. Like, you really have to build this one. But that's kind of how this palette is too. Like, you have to build this one to get it to give you any kind of an impact. So I would just be very mindful of that, and just really think if this is something that you actually need, because it is such an expensive palette. But that's my personal opinion, and you know, I know that we all want something different. And for those of you out there that are like me and you love Charlotte Tilbury and you just buy it because it's Charlotte Tilbury, it's a new quad palette that you want to play with, I totally understand that aspect. But those are my final thoughts. I hope that that was helpful for you guys, and thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you guys again for the love that you show me and my channel. It means the world to me. I will see you guys in my next video, and I love you all so much. Bye!